to the Christmas Canvas, our virtual Bible study series for the month of December. I'm Pastor Marlon Henderson, and I'm so glad you joined us tonight. Listen, together we'll dive into the masterpiece of Christmas, painted by the hand of God himself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever marveled at a work of art that was so stunning it left you speechless? Maybe it was a breathtaking sunset, a powerful portrait, or even a simple photograph that captured a moment perfectly. What if I told you that the greatest masterpiece ever created is still on display today? And here's the kicker. It was painted long before time began. So tonight, we're going to explore the Creator's brushstroke, the first stroke of a divine masterpiece that begins the Christmas story. And guess what? It all starts in John chapter 1, verses 1 through verse 5, where the brush hits the canvas of creation. So grab your Bible, grab your notebook, and more so, grab your faith, because we're about to dive in. Allow me, if you will, to set it up, if you will. I want you to picture an artist standing before a blank canvas. With one brushstroke, they bring life to the lifeless. That first stroke holds all the promise of what's to come, a masterpiece in the making. But imagine if the artist never made that first move. Imagine if the canvas stayed blank, void of color, form, or purpose. It will remain nothing more than potential, never becoming what it was meant to be. Now think about this. The same is true of our world and our lives. Without the Creator's first brushstroke, we'd be void, we'd be empty, we'd be without form, we'd be without purpose. But John's gospel opens with a resounding truth. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He says, all things was made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. That's something to think about, isn't it? In our text, John introduces Jesus as the Word, the Logos, the divine expression of God himself. And this isn't just any beginning. Before that was time, before that was space, before that was matter, that was Jesus. And he wasn't created, he was creator. With one sovereign stroke, he spoke the universe into existence. Light came bursting through the void, stars dancing to their places, and the earth began to spin on its axis. Do you realize what this means? It means that Jesus isn't a supporting character in the Christmas story. He's the author, he's the artist, he's the architect. And when John says, in him was life, and the life was the light of men, he's reminding us that Jesus didn't just give life, he is life. Now let me ask you, do you see the brushstrokes? When you look at creation, do you see the fingerprints of the Creator? When you wake up in the morning and feel the sun on your face, do you recognize the artistry of his light? Or have we become so distracted by the chaos of life that we miss the masterpiece unfolding around us? Think about that for a moment, brothers and sisters. I remember one night as a little boy sitting under a sky full of stars and realizing, God didn't have to make this world so beautiful. He could have given us a bland, colorless world. But he didn't. He painted sunsets to remind us of his majesty. He filled the world with life to reflect his goodness. Every detail points back to the Creator's brushstroke. So let's break this down into 3 brushstrokes from our text and reveal the Creator's hand. There is the brushstroke of eternity. John 1 verses 1 and 2 talks about how before anything was created, the Word existed. Brothers and sisters, Jesus is eternal, unchanging, and sovereign. This means your life is held by one who existed before your problems, before your pain, before your fears ever began. Let's pause and really consider this truth. John's opening words, in the beginning. Those are deliberate words that echo Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But notice what John does differently. Before the beginning of creation, the word already was. This means Jesus didn't come into existence. He always existed. He is eternal, outside of time, unbound by the limits of human understanding. This is the sovereignty of Jesus. He doesn't react to time. He reigns over it. He doesn't adjust his plans to fit your life. Your life is written into his eternal plan. Think about that. The Word who was with God and was God saw you before the foundation of the world. And here's the beauty. His eternal nature means he is unchanging. Hebrews, 13:8 reminds us Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. This means the same Word who spoke creation into being, the same Jesus who calmed the seas and calmed storms and raised the dead, it's the same Jesus who walks before you today. So if you're facing something overwhelming, remember this. Your life is anchored in the one who existed before it all began. That's something to shout about. That's the brushstroke of eternity, but then there is the brushstroke of creation right there in verse 3. John declares all things were made by him. This is a statement of power and purpose. If Jesus can create galaxies, surely he can handle the mess in our lives. Nothing was made without him, and that includes you, that includes me. Take a moment to let this sink in. All things were made by him. Every star in the sky, every grain of sand, every drop of water, all of it owes its existence to Jesus. Have you ever seen images from the Hubble telescope? Galaxies spiraling in perfect harmony, the nebulae bursting with color, light traveling millions of years just to reach us. That's his work. It's God's work. But his was even more powerful. This creator didn't stop at galaxies. He formed you and me. Psalm 139:14 says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your fingerprints are unique. Your DNA is a masterpiece. The same Jesus who placed the stars also placed his image in us. And let's not miss the significance of John's phrasing. When he said, without him was not anything made that was made. There is no accident in creation. Jesus didn't just create, he created with a purpose. And that includes your life. If he can fashion galaxies from nothing, he can take the chaos of your circumstances and create something beautiful. Whatever feels broken, whatever feels scattered or lost in your life, the Creator still has the power to bring it together into something purposeful. That's the brushstroke of creation. But then there's the brushstroke of illumination between verses 4 and 5. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Jesus brings life where there is death and light where there is darkness. When you feel lost, remember that his light still shines. The darkness cannot overcome it. When John says in him was life, he's not just talking about some biological existence. He's talking about that Zoe, that in Greek life as God intended it. This is the fullness of life, eternal and abundant. From the beginning, Jesus has been the source of all life. He breathed life into Adam, gave sight to the blind, raised Lazarus from the dead. But then John goes further. He said the life was the light of men. What do light do? Light reveals, light guides, light overcomes, and without it, we're lost. Have you ever been in complete darkness? Man, you'll bust your head. You'll stump a toe. Even the smallest flick of light can change everything. And Jesus doesn't just shine. He is the light. He reveals God to us. He exposes the darkness of sin, and then he shows us the way of salvation. And here's the good news. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. And that verb shines is in the present tense. It's not that Jesus light shone one time and then it stopped. I wouldn't serve a God who has an on and an off switch to his light. No, it's still shining today. No matter how dark your situation may seem, his light is more powerful. Darkness cannot extinguish it. The enemy tried to snuff it out on the cross, but even the grave couldn't hold it. So if you feel overwhelmed or surrounded by darkness, remember this: his light is still shining. It's a light that guides, it's a light that comforts, it's a light that conquers, and it's a light that will never go out. Never, ever go out. So there you have it. The brushstroke of eternity, the brushstroke of creation, the brushstroke of illumination. Think about that. And these are not just abstract truth. They are personal promises. The same Jesus who painted the cosmos with stars is painting purpose into your life right now. And so tonight we glimpsed the Creator's brushstroke, the first stroke of the Christmas masterpiece. But here's the thing about masterpieces. They're never complete in a single stroke. So next week, we'll step back and look at the colors of compassion, where we will see how the Creator didn't just paint from a distance. He stepped into the canvas himself. So guess what? Don't miss it. Same time, same place. Invite someone to join you, because the story of Christmas is just getting started. Till then, remember this: the masterpiece isn't just around you, it's in you. Guess what? The artist isn't finished yet. That's good news. God bless you, my brothers and sisters, and I'll see you next week for another edition of the Christmas Canvas. I love you all. Be blessed.